Today, we're going to dive into a legal case that starts with a simple backyard swimming pool, but ends up asking a really profound question. What is a promise actually worth?
I mean, it sounds like a straightforward question, right? But the answer? Well, it's surprisingly complicated. Is a broken promise worth the cost of making things absolutely perfect? Or is it something else entirely? This is the puzzle at the very heart of our story. It all kicked off with a pretty simple construction project that went just a little bit wrong. We're talking about 9 inches. That's it. But believe it or not, those 9 inches would challenge the entire English legal system and completely change how the courts think about disappointment.
All right, so let's set the scene here. A man named Mr. Forsyth wasn't just building any old pool. He was building his perfect pool. And for him, that meant one thing was non-negotiable. A deep end of exactly 7 feet, 6 inches, so he could dive in comfortably without worrying about hitting the bottom.
And look, this wasn't just some casual, off-the-cuff wish. Nope. It was spelled out, black and white, right there in his contract with the builder, Ruxley Electronics. For him, that specific depth was pretty much the whole point of the pool. So when the work was all said and done, the pool, it was fine. You could swim in it, it was totally safe, looked great, everything. But it failed on that one crucial promise. It was 9 inches too shallow. And this is where things get really, really interesting. That little 9-inch gap created a massive legal and financial puzzle, one worth over £21,000. How in the world do you put a price tag on 9 inches of missing water? Okay, so in contract law, the courts usually have 2 main tools in their toolbox for a problem like this. The first option is what's called the cost to fix. Basically, you make the builder pay whatever it takes to deliver on the original promise. The second option is to cover the loss in value. You figure out how much the property's market value dropped because of the flaw, and you pay that. Now, the cost to fix in this case was just staggering. I mean, to get those extra 9 inches of depth, you'd have to tear out the entire pool and rebuild it from scratch. The price for that? A jaw-dropping £21,560. And here is the absolute kicker. The loss in value? It was nothing. Zero. Zilch. A real estate expert came in and said that the shallower pool had absolutely no impact on the market value of Mr. Forsyth's property. So you've got a $21,000 problem that caused $0 in actual financial loss. What do you do? This is the exact puzzle the courts were facing, and neither of those options seemed fair. Forcing the builder to spend a fortune on what's honestly a pretty minor flaw seemed wildly unreasonable. But just letting the builder off the hook for breaking a clear promise? Well, that seemed completely unjust. The court had to find a third way.
Seriously, put yourself in the judge's robes for a second. What's the right call here? You force the builder to spend a small fortune, or do you look Mr. Forsyth in the eye and say, sorry, your disappointment is worthless? Neither of those feels right, does it?
So the judges looked at that £21,000 figure and, they basically said, this is just nuts. It was completely out of proportion to spend that kind of money on such a small flaw. It was a classic case of the cure being way worse than the disease. But awarding nothing? That was a huge problem too. That would basically be sending a message that a builder can just ignore a specific part of a contract and get away with it. And it would mean that Mr. Forsyth's very real personal disappointment was worth absolutely nothing in the eyes of the law. So, stuck between a rock and a hard place, the House of Lords did something brilliant. They got creative. They came up with a whole new legal idea to try and measure something that you can't normally measure, the feeling of disappointment. And this is it, loss of amenity. It's a fantastic term. Think of it like this. It's not about financial loss. It's about the loss of enjoyment. Mr. Forsyth didn't lose money on his house, but he absolutely lost the specific pleasure of having the perfect pool that he had dreamed of and paid for. This was a way to finally put a price on that feeling. This quote from the final judgment just nails it. A swimming pool isn't like buying a ton of bricks for a commercial building. It's a luxury. It's about personal enjoyment. The court recognized that the value of the promise wasn't just about money. It was about personal satisfaction. So, what was the magic number? The court awarded Mr. Forsyth £2,500. It wasn't the insane 21 grand to rebuild the whole thing, but it certainly wasn't zero either. It was a fair, reasonable sum that said, yes, your disappointment has value. Okay, so why are we talking about a swimming pool case from the 90s? Well, because the legacy of Ruxley versus Forsyth is huge, and it affects all of us as consumers, even today.
This case is a massive win for you, for me, for any consumer. It basically says that your personal preferences, when they're written into a contract, they have real, actual value. The law protects more than just your wallet, it protects your satisfaction. And it recognizes that sometimes a perfect fix is actually unreasonable. It's really all about acknowledging what economists call the consumer surplus, that extra bit of personal joy you get from something that goes way beyond its simple price tag.
So the next time you order something and you don't get exactly what you bargained for, just remember the story of the 9-inch shallow swimming pool and ask yourself, what is your disappointment really worth?